Well, hey, you guys, what's going on? It's kind of dark in here.
Yeah, it's because we didn't turn the lights on.
Oh, I thought that one was on, but I guess I forgot to turn that one on. I turned that one on, but now it's like way too bright.
Yeah.
You might
That should be enough right there.
You might want to tone that down. You think?
Yeah, turn it down.
Yeah, I told you.
I think it could be.
That seems better, but you come in here and see how it looks. Yeah, see, that looks better.
Actually, this one should come on too, and damn.
Are you sure? I don't think we usually put that one on.
I'm gonna do what I'm gonna do.
Well, I know.
All right, try. That way we get a full plate. That should be good.
Hey, everybody, what's going on? Hey, Tammy. Hey, Murder Hornet. Hey, Sebastian. Murder Hornet says never buy habanero flavored Tabasco. Hot as fuck. Well, I wasn't planning on it. That sounds like more like something Tom would like.
I'd love that. Yeah.
Yeah. Like I said, he's drinking the ghost
the
ghost pepper
ghost
tequila,
pepper tequila.
that my brother gave me.
That's it.
Mandy says, "I love the hair." Yeah, thanks. I don't usually wear this one, but I said, well, I have like a greenish blue dress on today, so I'm doing it's a whole vibe, like a green vibe today, you know. And it doesn't have anything to do with werewolves, but you know.
You're right.
So here's the thing: we did a bunch of Universal monster movies like a few months ago, right? We did Dracula, we did Spanish Dracula, we did Dracula's Daughter, we did Frankenstein, we did Bride of Frankenstein, we did Creature from the Black Lagoon, The Mummy, we did The Mummy, but we did not do The Wolfman.
All right.
And then I saw that The Wolfman was on Amazon Prime for free, and we were kind of sleepy last night. I'm like, hey, it's only an hour and 9 minutes.
Yeah, it's short. I still fell asleep.
And Tom still fell asleep.
Yeah. It had Bela Lugosi in it, though.
Yes.
I didn't know he was in it.
Yeah. I had forgotten he was in it, too, yeah. He's not, he gets, well, spoiler alert for a movie that's from 1941. But he's not in it a real long time because he gets killed, like, pretty early. But he's great in it. I really liked him in this.
I didn't recognize
in this
him
role.
First.
Yeah, well, I can't believe you didn't recognize that voice, like, as soon as he starts talking.
Yeah. He had a mustache and everything.
Yeah. Well, like I said, yeah.
Played a gypsy.
Well,
gypsy
and he was the first werewolf.
Yeah, he became the first werewolf.
He was the one that made Lon Chaney into the werewolf.
Right. Lon Chaney got bitten and killed it with the damn silver. Ended Cain.
Yeah.
Killed the wolf. So the original werewolf is dead. And then he became the new one. Yeah. And he didn't know exactly what was happening to him. But I saw him transform. They did a transformation. It was a 1941 transformation. Looked like a dude in a wool suit, running around on his tiptoes with an afro.
It's 1941.
And some fangs.
Gonna say, Jack Pierce did the makeup for this just like he did for Frankenstein and everything like that.
For the time, it was good.
Yeah, it's good for the time, and I feel like it's like iconic.
Yeah.
But they didn't do the thing about it. Okay, so the Wolfman, like I said, this wasn't actually Universal's first werewolf movie. That would have been, I think, Werewolf of London, which came out in 1935, which didn't really do all that well. Like, it didn't make much of a splash or anything. So they had been talking about doing this one. This one, originally Boris Karloff was supposed to be in it because they were talking about it like back in the 30s, and then they just never got around to doing it. But it had a different script back then. So when they eventually got Lon Chaney to be in it, initially, the writer of this movie, who's Kurt Siodmak, he wanted the movie to remain ambiguous as to whether the guy was really turning into a werewolf or if he just thought he was turning into a werewolf. And so a lot of the movie, because there's not really a lot of werewolfery in this. Like Lon Chaney, like when he first transforms into a werewolf, it's basically just his feet. You just see his feet, and then like they kind of show him like running around in the woods and stuff. But they only do the only transformation they do other than the feet is at the end after, spoiler alert, he gets killed, and then he turns back into a person. And they did it with lap dissolves like they did everything back then. So it's basically like stop motion animation. Like they would do the makeup and then film a few frames and then, you know, put a little more makeup on and film a few frames and shit like that and just like run it in reverse.
Yeah, I fell asleep in like the last 20 minutes. I missed it. Not into any fault of the movie. The movie's kind of relaxing. I was fucking tired.
Yeah.
And I was trying to fight it. My eyes were fucking...
And then I'm like watching it and I hear...
Yeah, I started sleeping a lot. Then I tried to wake myself. I was like, what happened? And I said, fucking, I can't keep...
And it was over like when you woke up. Because like I said, it's pretty short.
I'll watch it again. there were some things about the movie that stood out. As I've never seen it. I had never seen this movie before.
I saw it, but a very long time ago.
Maybe I saw it when I was a little kid and forgot about it. A lot of it, the interiors looked like it was shot in location in a really nice, fucking old school buildings like shit from the 1800s. It looked like they would look like it was real locations. A lot of the places.
I kind of wonder, well, because all the exteriors, a lot of the exteriors were done in the Universal backlot, like the European Village set that they always redress. I'm not sure about the interiors though.
The interiors look like big mansions.
Yeah.
Another thing that I noticed about it is that for 1941, the casting isn't real stereotypical for 41. Usually in 41, if you're going to have like a leading man, he's actually kind of a sappy fucking pretty boy, really.
Or they were all kind of bland, I thought.
Yeah. But
like just a blonde,
Chaney,
all-American.
I got to hand it to Lon Chaney. He had a little bit of grit to him. He seemed a little bit threatening even before he was a vampire.
Oh, we'll get into that.
He seemed,
or a werewolf, you mean, yeah.
Yeah, even before he became a werewolf.
We'll get into that a little bit.
He seems fucking lecherous, and he seems like slightly like a bad guy. A bad guy who's kind of passing himself off as a good guy. And he had a rough look to him. He looks tough, especially for 41. So there was...
Is someone knocking at the front door?
Was that a cat trying to get into the cupboards?
Oh, I don't know. I hear somebody knocking as though someone's knocking at the front door.
I'm not going to check.
I mean, we have a doorbell, right?
Yeah, we have a doorbell.
So
I think that was a cat trying to open a cupboard. Now they
oh, yeah, maybe.
Boom, 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 boom.
Yeah.
They try to open up a cabinet.
Maybe that's what it is.
That's what it sounded like.
Either that or it's somebody outside. I'm not sure.
Yeah. There's nobody out there.
But yeah, that's pretty weird.
Mo. And it's a neighbor working on his fucking vehicle.
Oh, okay.
That's what it is.
Yeah, because I was like, I couldn't tell where it was coming from. I'm like, wow, that's really loud.
No, it's right over there.
Oh, he's just out on his driveway. Okay. Yeah. Well, that explains it. Never mind. I thought somebody was banging on her door.
Yeah, it sounded like it was coming from in here, but it's not.
But yeah, well, here, okay, the thing about this, Lon Chaney, I mean, obviously this is Lon Chaney Jr. Lon Chaney Sr. was, Phantom of the Opera and all of that. You know what? I think that I knew this fact, but I had forgotten it until I was watching a documentary about this earlier today. Thank you, Jeffy Art. Just chilling and making salad. We're just chilling and talking about the Wolfman and having some vodka or tequila in Don's case.
Yeah.
But his name is not Lon Chaney Jr. His name is Creighton Chaney. But the studio said, hey, once his dad had passed away, sadly, they're like, well, now you have to be Lon Chaney. So they made him change his name.
Yeah, show business.
Right, exactly.
Yeah. Makes sense.
You know what? Okay, so I had forgotten too that Lon Chaney.
Most of them had fake names too.
They did, yeah.
Most of them did.
And yeah, and they always kind of had. I always cracked up at how they like Americanized a lot of the names because a lot of the actors were not Americans.
A lot of them were Mexican Americans.
Yeah, and they changed them to like kind of like white bread sounding names, which I thought was like super funny.
Well, it's kind of funny they were English names.
Yeah,
because almost everybody who had Irish. Who of Irish immigration descent, she got rid of all the Mick names, Mix and Max. They all just took English names. That was it had to sound like English back in the day.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, if you had a German name, you changed it to English.
Yeah, but the thing about this that kind of struck me, because like I said, I'd seen this before, but it was a really long time ago. And so Lon Chaney plays the grown son of like a lord. This is supposed to take place in Wales, even though pretty much everybody has American accents. I didn't even realize it was supposed to be Wales until I looked it up later. But his dad is Sir John, is played by Claude Rains, most famous for Invisible Man, among other things. Claude Rains was only 6 years older than Lon Chaney. And I will note that Lon Chaney is about twice the size of Claude Rains. I mean, Lon Chaney was a big dude. Like, he was very tall, and he had, like, really broad shoulders. And Claude Rains was kind of more average size, like, on the smaller side. So it's like, I'm looking at him, I'm like, they look like the same age, for one thing. And Lon Chaney looks like he could bench press Claude Rains. So I was like, it was very weird, like, the dynamic, that it was supposed to be, like, father and son. Because it almost seemed like it should have been the other way around. But honestly, it's a testament to both of their acting that I kind of forgot about it after a while. Like, at first, I'm like, wait, that's his dad? They look like the same age. But yeah, they were almost the same age because I did look it up. I was curious. But yeah, so the original version of this script, he wasn't actually going to turn into a wolf ever. There wasn't going to be like a transformation type of scene because Kurt Siodmak wanted it to be a psychological horror film where you never found out if he was actually turning into a werewolf. Like, it's possible he was turning into a werewolf, but it's also possible that he was just thinking that he was turning into a werewolf and going out and killing people and, like, dissociating. So there's a lot. I had forgotten how much of that psychological stuff there was in this. Like, you know he's turning into a werewolf because they show it, but it's just kind of like there's a lot of him not knowing if he's actually turning into a werewolf and no one believing it, obviously, because it's a werewolf.
I think there was some ambiguity in Cat People too.
Yeah, and those two movies get compared a lot because they're very similar. And I think we did Cat People as well. We reviewed Cat People.
If y'all haven't seen the old original Cat People, you should see it.
I love Cat People.
That's just lesbian as hell.
That's Jacques Tourneur,
yeah, it's a good flick.
Yeah, I really like that one a lot. But and Val Lewton, I think, was like the producer on that. Yeah. So if you like kind of were-creature kind of movies.
Not really a monster movie though. Not really. Weird psycho thriller.
Yeah.
With hot lesbians in it.
Yeah.
Basically, and it's good.
They got away with a lot.
Got away with a lot, but you could tell that's what it was
for the 1940s.
Through the modern eye. I'm not sure if they did back in the 30s know what they were talking about.
Well, Cat People was 40s.
40s. So that's right. 40. But it was lesbians.
Yeah.
That was just one element of it.
Honestly, I kind of feel like Cat People and the Wolfman, they both have very strong elements of noir. Yep. You know what I mean? So it's almost like the Wolfman, I think, is more like a monster movie because he does actually like turn into a werewolf and like run around and kill people and shit. Whereas Cat People, like I said, there was a lot more ambiguity there. Yeah. So it was less a monster movie. But I do think both of them, probably Cat People more than this one. I kind of feel like Cat People is like super.
What was cool about Cat People is that they invented a monster and a lore out of nothing, as far as I was concerned. I believe that they made that monster up.
Well,
Were cats, were leopards.
Yeah, she just turned into like a leopard every time she got sexually aroused.
Yeah. And then she had to kill somebody to turn back.
Scandalous.
Some wild shit.
But yeah, I think the thing that a lot of people relate to about this movie is that Lon Chaney's character, well, you said, I had forgotten how stalkery, I don't know if I want to go too far in that direction, but he's kind of stalkery. He's like kind of sexually aggressive, let's put it that way. Even from the beginning, like before he gets bit by a werewolf. Because I want to kind of get into that too. But, so I had forgotten about that. But a lot of people like find him a very sympathetic monster because he doesn't do anything to deserve what happens to him. Like, it's just circumstance.
He got bit.
Yeah, he just got bit by, and I will add, he got bit by a werewolf in the course of protecting someone else.
Yep.
Trying to protect someone because she gets killed, but trying to protect someone else from getting killed by a werewolf, and he jumps in, and then he gets bit by the werewolf, and then starts turning into a werewolf, and like no one believes him. And it's interesting because I was thinking this while I was watching it. I was like, his character gets gaslighted the fuck out of, which they don't usually do to male characters. Yeah. And I thought that was like really interesting. That was kind of going back to the whole psychological angle that Kurt Siodmak was into, where because he was talking more, he wanted to play more with the idea of like medical or psychological lycanthropy. People that, you know, they don't obviously like turn into wolves, but they think that they do. Yeah.
My take on that angle of it is that the story was telling you that he was a Chad. You know, he was a Chad. He wasn't a fucking, simpy guy or anything. He became a werewolf, but it really wasn't his fault. Just because he was a Chad didn't necessarily mean that he deserved any of this. So
yeah, he didn't, but
so
yeah.
I think that was I think that's where they were trying to get the sympathy from. Because maybe they figured a lot of guys in the audience would recognize that.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, he's trying to get laid too. You know what I mean? And then
just like you.
Yeah, he's trying to get laid just like me. And then all of a sudden he gets bit by a werewolf and fucking man, they'd fuck him over. And then the world turns against him. And normally, probably because I don't know if this is pre-Hays Code or what.
No, I think this was after. When was the Hays Code?
Hays Code, evildoers had to be punished in the stories.
Yeah, they couldn't get away with shit.
So it could be that was one of they were fulfilling it. Like this, the main character is the monster. he was the evildoer, and he kind of became a werewolf, and that was his punishment. But the evil doing was just he was a womanizer, trying to get in women's pants.
Well, just this one specific
just one,
woman.
yeah. But they lead you to believe that he was kind of like a serial. He was a regular dude with serial trying to chase.
He's a player.
Yeah, he's a player. And and then he ended up on double dates with a woman. She
wasn't even a double date. It was I want to get into that.
Date you, and then she brings her friend for security. He's like, what? He's like, okay, all right, two for the price of one.
All right, I'll work with it. Although he was bummed out though because he okay.
I think a lot of guys would have mentally flipped that though in the audience of those days.
All right, that's how that's
okay, yeah,
go.
Two.
All right, I can accept that.
That's good. And then, so I think because I was trying to put myself in the shoes of a dude in the 40s, a young guy in the 40s, how he's going to interpret this. So I think that was a way of fulfilling the Hays Code requirements. But they did it. But they were subtly saying that the dude didn't deserve it.
Yeah.
You know what I'm talking about?
Because he still does come across as a sympathetic character, even though I had forgotten how much
it was a selling point to the fucking people.
Right.
Oh, he was an evildoer. He's punished.
Because I had forgotten how much of kind of a creep he was at the beginning.
Yeah, he's creepy. Well, he was.
I was shocked actually. I kind of forgot about it. And I was willing to give the movie some slack because I was like, yeah, it's the 1940s, and that was in a lot of movies back then. Like the guys were like really persistent, and pushy and shit like that. Whereas nowadays people would be like, bro, you know what I mean? Like that's stalker behavior. But like back then it wasn't as
it was kind
problematic, I guess.
Yeah, because it's just like if you grew up in a Latin culture, with Catholicism, the women are supposed to say no to you. They don't really mean no. They just say no so they can fulfill their honor requirements. If they mean no, they slap you. That's what that means. That's real no. There's different kinds of no. So I think it was more standard back then. A woman was supposed to be demure, and a guy was supposed to chase after him.
Yeah, and I think that was
available and they were available.
Because you see that in a lot of movies. Right. But here's the thing.
What I think they're leaving out, and the modern audience doesn't pick up, is that even in Latin cultures, the dudes that pursue the women, they pursue because the women gave a signal. There's a subtle signal that she gives that she's interested. So then the pursuit starts. But he knows he's going to go through this ritual of, oh, no. But then they make out, oh, stop, that's enough. That kind of shit. Yeah. That shit's probably out of style now, but it was like that back in the 80s in Brazil easily.
Well, I think it was kind of like that here, probably, I don't know, probably up until the 60s.
Yeah. If a woman didn't resist you, and call you at the same time, then she was a hoe. Yeah. She was, you know what I mean? She had to say no and yes simultaneously. Because she was a good girl.
Because like I said, I hadn't seen this in probably since I was a kid or a teenager. And so what happens in this is that Lon Chaney's character, Larry Talbot, he's been away in America for 18 years. Like I said, this is taking place in Wales, even though most people sound like Americans, except for Claude Rains. So he comes back to his ancestral mansion thing, because like I said, his dad is a lord or a sir or something, whatever. And so he comes back to kind of take over the family business, whatever it is, because his older brother has died in a hunting accident. They never really elaborate on that or anything. But so he comes back, he's been away a long time. You can tell there's some tension between him and the dad, because I was reading one review that said, these landed gentry and everything, they always do that thing. And there's a word for it. It's called an heir and a spare. So the older brother was obviously the heir, but he's dead now. So now the spare has to take over. So there's a little bit of resentment because the younger son knew that he was just like, oh, I'm just like the leftover. You know what I mean? So he comes back. So he's working on his dad's, because his dad's got an observatory, because, as one does. And he's working on his dad's telescope. And when he's looking through the telescope, to test the lens or whatever the fuck he did, he sees a young woman in the window, of the antique shop, but upstairs, across. And he's just like, all right. She's not naked or anything like that. She was just getting dressed and be like, oh, I look pretty and stuff. So, okay, fine. Like I said, he's not watching her undress. To be fair, her curtains were open, but whatever. So he decides, immediately, I'm going to go to this antique shop and see what I can see. So he goes right over there.
Want to meet her, yeah.
Yeah, and to go over there and meet her, because he was like, auga, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So he goes in there, And I thought, I thought this was a little creepy.
But she's hot. She
is super hot. Yeah. Yeah, she's gorgeous. She's gorgeous. What is her name? Evelyn Ankers. That's her name. So yeah, she's beautiful.
Yeah, 40s movie stars, man, they had it going.
I mean, the glamour.
Yeah, glamour.
Fantastic. I love that
the
fucking
hair,
look.
The makeup,
yeah,
the clothes, everything.
Just gorgeous. Everything is like immaculate.
Yeah.
So he goes over there, and this is how, and he gets a little, he's like a little close, you know what I mean? He's like kind of fogging up on her a little bit. So he's like, yeah, I'm looking for a pair of earrings for somebody, like a gift for somebody. That's the ruse that he's using. And she pulls out a bunch, we have this and that and the other. She's like, I don't really like any of those. Do you have any that are like half moon with like spangles on them? And she's like, no, we don't have anything like that. And then he says, oh, but you do, upstairs in your bedroom. And I'm like, whoa, what? Like, if some dude came in a shop and like said that to me, I'd be like, get the fuck out or I'm calling the police. But she didn't do that. And he doesn't tell her until much later that he saw her through the telescope, which again is still creepy. He tells her that he's psychic. That's what he says. Mm-hmm. And that he knew about the earrings and everything like that. But I think if somebody, I mean, wouldn't you be weird? I mean, I know you're not a chick, but it's like, wouldn't you be weirded out if some dude came in a store and said, you know, I know you have a pair like that because I just saw them on your dressing table in your bedroom.
I'm going to say typical male behavior.
I'm like,
typical male behavior.
I'm sorry, that is a threat. That is a threat.
A dude's going to do that, baby. I know all about you, baby. I had a dream.
That's what I mean. That is a fucking threat.
It's just because sometimes
and it's not even so, and she's clearly very uncomfortable by this information.
I think he was trying to make her fucking, he was trying to seem, you know, spooky.
He did seem like he was trying to, and like I said, I don't know because it's like I wasn't alive in the 40s, so I don't really know what the vibe was, man. But it's just kind of like, to me,
they had all them swamis and all that. You know what I mean? He's just not like he was a man of fucking, you know, psychic ability.
Yeah,
you know,
I guess.
Getting her pants. I don't think he was that serious about it.
I guess, but it's like, so he's like, okay, well, I'm not gonna buy any fucking earrings. He's like, so, oh well, but just buy one of these canes, and this like one has a wolf head on it and everything like that. And so he buys this cane, which is used later on for various things. And when he buys it, like, there's this whole thing where he's like, oh, well, I'll use it tonight when you come and take a walk with me. And she very clearly, this is all, she goes, no.
Yeah.
She just goes, no, very clearly. Oh, well, I'll pick you up at 8. No.
Yeah.
And then he shows up anyway.
Yeah.
And then he shows up anyway. Yeah. And she comes out and she's like, oh, I'm bringing my friend Jenny with us. Not me. Obviously, because I wasn't alive in 1941.
So she expected him.
I guess so, but it's because he, like I said, he was very very persistent.
They were doing the monkey dance.
I will note though that so they take the third wheel with them because she's like, I'm bringing my friend along for security, for cock blocking purposes, and for security. Yeah. I would have brought a big dude along. So it's like, hey, can I bring my boyfriend? Yeah, it would have been like that. But out on this walk, since I already said
back
no.
in the 40s, if you saw a woman and she was hot, she belonged to you.
I mean, clearly.
That's what that means.
That's what I'm saying.
Oh, I got you.
I had just forgotten how blatant it was.
I got you.
In a lot of these movies.
I'm guaranteed.
But that's not the kicker, though. The kicker is, so they go out on a date. They go to, let's go get our fortunes read in the middle of the foggy woods, because that's apparently where the gypsies have set up. So they go in there, Jenny goes in first to get her fortune read, and they fucking leave her there. They're just like, oh, well, let's go be alone, like over here in the woods. And I'm just like, and they fucking leave her there and indirectly cause her to get killed because she gets attacked by the werewolf. So that happens. Then the kicker is, like, all of the people in the village, they find out about this, and they're like, hey, you got her killed, which kind of they did, because they just left her. I'm not saying she wouldn't have died anyway. I'm just saying they were kind of indirectly responsible. But then you find out later on that bitch, that woman, is engaged. Yeah. And she's going out with some random ass dude she just met.
Yeah, yeah.
And so everybody, and there was kind of, they don't say this outright because it's 1941, but when Jenny's mom comes to the antique shop and like, because I guess her like dad owned the antique shop or whatever, like whatever that character's name was. What was her name? Shit, now I can't remember. Gwen, that's right. So Gwen's dad owns the antique shop, and all the ladies, like Jenny's mom and all the old biddies, like in the village, they come in and be like, one, they got her killed, they left her out there, which, like I said, they kind of did, and then it's like, and she's engaged, and she's out, like, by herself with this random man, and they don't call her a hoe, But they in 1941 speak, they were like, "Oh, that innocent face is just covering up a little," and then they like interrupt. You know what I mean? Yeah. So you could tell that they were being like that little harlot, like running around with some dude that's not her fiance.
Yeah.
So.
Well, he kind of insisted.
Yeah, I mean, you know.
Pushy motherfucker.
He was a very pushy motherfucker.
Yeah, it all worked out though.
Well, it didn't really because I mean, it worked out in the sense that.
Well, when her real boyfriend showed up, then he started to chill out. He was just remember they were like kind of trying to be bros for a second.
Well, I felt like that whole scene where they were at like that carnival or whatever that was, and then
he was like, "I'm gonna show him I'm not." He was a competing suitor.
Yeah, he said that he's like, "Oh, well, I just want to show you that I'm not jealous, so we'll go and talk to this Larry Talbot person." Yeah. But then the first thing that other dude does is like, "Oh, we have to like do like this little shooting booth or whatever, like a competition."
Yeah, yeah.
So she could like, so he's like, "Ha, I'm better than this motherfucker." So there was that.
Typical.
There was like a little, there was like a little dick comparing,
like they were
little dick measuring contest.
Yeah, I think by today's standards, it seems kind of fucking. Kind of primitive and blocky and real pushy.
Yeah.
But I think that was like kind of time compressed, and they're just trying to tell the audience that, she had competing suitors. Yeah. Is what it was. Even
though, like I said, I guess technically she was already engaged, but they kind of mitigated it.
You could probably make a move on an engaged woman. That's not marriage.
Yeah, that's
true. Just because they're engaged doesn't mean they're actually dating. They're virgins.
You know what
I'm talking about? So you could try to steal it in the engagement. You're thinking of it a fucking normal,
I know.
Modern.
I know.
Fucking no, they're both virgins.
Yeah.
Okay.
Probably.
And fucking the Lon Chaney character, you could tell he's not a virgin. He's too old to be a virgin. I mean, he's been around the fucking block, and he's gaming on the women. You know, and he's trying to get the hottest thing he can get. She's like what, 20 years younger than him?
Probably.
15?
I mean, maybe not. It's hard to tell, like I said.
He looks like people, a dude in his 40s.
I know, like, people looked older back then. I'm actually not sure
maybe
how old
he might have only been 35.
I'm not sure how old Lon Chaney was.
Yeah, she might have only been
when
about
he made
35.
The Wolfman.
He may have been 35, and she was probably about 20.
Yeah, maybe. Or maybe slightly older. I'm not really sure, though. She looked like she was still in her 20s.
They got married around 20.
Very young.
18,
she
19,
would look quite
20.
young.
She might have even been might have been, the character may have been supposed to be in her late teens. There's just no, you can't look at this through the modern perspective.
But but they kind of mitigate it, like I said, like when, like after he gets bit and like, and starts wolfing out, but like nobody believes it. But she seems to have like fallen in love with him, because at the end when he comes back and he's like flipping out being like, I'm pretty sure I murdered some people, but I don't like remember doing it, and I'm turning into a werewolf and shit like that, she was gonna like run off with him.
Yeah.
And he was just like, yeah, no, don't do that because I'll kill you too.
Well, he's Lon Chaney Jr.
Right.
And he's the main character. Of course she likes him more.
Yeah.
And her original suitor was a beta compared to fucking Lon Chaney.
They always do that.
And now he's a werewolf, so he's even hotter. That's how the audience back then would have interpreted that.
Sure.
Shit. Yeah. And it was a mostly male audience, probably young male audience members, looking at this, fucking thinking, oh yeah, I wish I was a werewolf. That's probably what
I kind of wish I was a werewolf.
Just like there was a lot of
that would be awesome.
Young male dudes fucking watching Dracula. They didn't want to be fucking Mina's boyfriend. They wanted to be fucking Count Dracula. Okay.
So did I.
Yeah,
it's not just Count a boy Dracula. Thing.
Yeah.
I wanted to be the monster.
They're living vicariously through these fucking monsters.
That's true. But yeah, so the thing about this now, I will note, and I know probably why this was. There is a little bit of discontinuity, I guess, in the plot, because what ends up happening is that when they go on the cockblock date with the third wheel girl,
that old cockblock,
and she gets killed.
Yeah.
She gets killed by what appears to be a regular wolf, right? And then so Lon Chaney jumps in and beats the wolf to death, which is pretty hardcore, with the cane that he bought. But then later, obviously this wolf is a werewolf, and it was Bela Lugosi. So it turns back into a person, and so everybody's like, oh, you killed a person, you know what I mean? Like, you beat this person to death. But nobody blames him, really. They're all just kind of like, oh, you know, you saved him. Like, they think what probably happened was like, oh, she did get attacked by a wolf, because they could tell that because it was wolf footprints and everything. But it's just like, oh, and then y'all both jumped in to save her, and there was confusion, and you accidentally beat a dude to death, because that can happen. But yeah, nobody really thought he was like a murderer, but he just kept like thinking about it. And then like the old gypsy lady who was actually like, you know, Bela Lugosi's mom.
She did a great job.
She's great. She's my favorite character.
She did a great job.
She's fucking epic in this.
Yeah.
Maria Ouspenskaya, I think that's how you pronounce her last name.
The tone of this movie is not as dark as, say, Dracula and Retro Dracula and Retro Frankenstein, but it has its own tone.
Yeah.
Kind of relaxing in a weird way.
It is kind of.
It's kind of a, I don't want to say slow, but it is kind of slow.
There's a lot of exposition.
There's a lot of stuff in it.
And in a modern take on it, I mean, I know they did do that one with Benicio del Toro, which I actually liked. I think a lot of people didn't like it, but I kind of liked it. I haven't seen it in a while.
You're supposed to be enjoying the acting and the dialogue and the sets. If they are sets, I was kind of convinced that those were real interior shots.
I mean, maybe the interiors are.
They look like real
I know
houses.
the exteriors are.
And it's in these mansions with a bunch of fucking old-fashioned busts and fucking artwork. It's trying to give you a very gothic feel to it.
Yeah.
You know, it does. I think it achieved that. The transformations are not convincing by today's standards, but they're practical effects with using almost no technology, and they're classic. They're just classic. Okay, that's the Wolfman. Kind of laughable by today's standards, but that was the original Wolfman, and it's good to know where it came from. I mean, this is where Howling came from, and fucking. What is it? Fucking what's the one with the British guys? Dog Soldiers.
Dog Soldiers.
And you know it came.
Great flick if you haven't seen it, by the way.
And I want to see Wolfen again.
I was just, you know what? I was just thinking about that today because I was reading an article about the best horror movies of the '80s, and a lot of people were like, "Why isn't Wolfen on this list?" And I was like, "I've been wanting to rewatch that. I think you can rent it for $1.99 on Amazon Prime."
This one actually, the tone before I didn't see the end. I fell asleep like in the last.
The end got real good.
Yeah, I missed the best part of it.
You missed all the good shit.
I still want to see it again because I was enjoying the movie watching it. And the tonally. I would say American Werewolf in London fucking kind of captured the tone of this in some ways. There's something about it where I was kind of respecting more American Werewolf in London. It did kind of I could see that it was an homage to this movie.
Yeah, even though that one was a lot more comedic.
Oh yeah, and it was a lot more modern
like
too.
Black comedy.
Yeah, it was a lot more modern, but it did kind of capture that feeling of kind of a nostalgic comfort to the movie, which this one was kind of comforting. Just no way to describe it.
Like I said, I think nowadays they wouldn't have to do as much exposition because, you know, Lon Chaney's character, he's like, oh, I just came from America. I don't know anything about werewolves. So everybody have to, like, tell him about werewolves.
They do the werewolf fucking poem 5 times. You get sick of it.
Yeah, I think at least 4 people, like, told him that same thing.
Yeah. And what was funny is that fucking Conrad Lent from fucking Venom, also known as Kronos from the black metal band called Venom. In one of his songs, I think it's called something about werewolf or something. He uses that fucking poem, and he tells it, you know, in his fucking black metal voice, you know, satanic. And I didn't realize it came from that.
Yeah. And it's not. And it comes from this movie. That's not like an old poem or an old legend or nothing like that.
Yeah.
Kurt Siodmak, the guy that wrote this screenplay, he just came up with that.
Yeah. Heavy metal Satanist shit. Heavy metal Satanism was directly out of fucking classic gothic horror.
Yeah.
Right from the movies.
Yeah. Well, that's where they got their ideas from. Yeah.
And fucking Paradise Lost. It's directly out of that.
The poem we're talking about, and I kind of feel like everybody knows this, even a man who is pure in heart and says his prayers by night may become a wolf when the wolf's bane blooms and the autumn moon is bright. Interestingly, this particular movie, they didn't mention anything having to do with the full moon because it seemed he could just kind of turn into a wolf like whenever, and the gypsy woman, she could recite this other poem thing. It wasn't really a poem. It was just kind of like a thing that she recited. And it would turn him back. It was almost like a spell, like turn him back into a human.
Yeah.
Like she could do that. Because like I said, it was her son was Bela Lugosi and he was the werewolf tale. But interestingly, this movie was really successful in 1941. So they made, I believe, 4 sequels to this. All of them starred Lon Chaney as the Wolfman. Even though, spoiler alert, he gets beat to death by his own dad at the end of this, which is, again, pretty hardcore, with the wolf cane. But he was brought back for 4 more sequels. But in the sequels, they use that same poem, but they change it to when the moon is full and bright, instead of when the autumn moon is bright, so they can bring in the whole phase of the moon thing. Because in this one, it doesn't really, nobody says anything about a full moon, or nobody says anything about phases of the moon or anything like that. It just seems like he gets bit, and then that night, he just, like, wolfs out. You know what I mean? And then he wolfs out the next night and shit like that. So there's no, like, full moon. They don't mention anything about the full moon in this one. Now they do mention the silver shit, like silver bullet, or like I said, because the cane has like a silver tipped handle, you can beat a werewolf to death with it, and several people do get. I had forgotten how I remembered that he died at the end, but I didn't remember that his own dad beat him to death. And I was like, that's pretty fucked up.
Get another drink.
It's pretty fucked up, that ending. Jonesburg. I was about to address that. Yeah, whatever happened with the OnlyFans page, we're gonna do. OnlyFans was too difficult to get on, so we went on ManyVids instead, which is kind of like, which was much easier. So we put some videos on there, and we still do StreamMate. We did it like pretty much every day last week, and we're gonna go on tomorrow again as well. And we have some videos on there too, but yeah. So we are still doing it. It's just we couldn't get on OnlyFans. It was too much of a pain, so we gave up. ManyVids was much easier. But yeah, so I don't know. Like I think that out of all, and I'm not being like uncharitable when I say this, I think out of all the classic Universal monster movies, I think this is probably my least favorite. My favorite would probably be Bride of Frankenstein. Although I'm a big fan of The Mummy, too. I feel like The Mummy is really kind of like an underrated one. I love Boris Karloff in that, and I love the makeup in it and everything. This one is like I said, it's almost more like a psychological horror, or more like a noir, with like some monster movie stuff in there. And I think that even though Jack Pierce did the makeup in this, just like he did on The Mummy, just like he did on Frankenstein, the makeup in this one it's good, but it's not as good as those. You know what I'm saying? Because it's hard to, because like I said, there was some discontinuity, because when Bela Lugosi supposedly turned into a werewolf, like it was an actual wolf. They don't really show it, but everybody says, oh, I just thought it was a regular wolf. It wasn't a dude. But then like when Lon Chaney, gets bit by the werewolf and he turns into a werewolf, he obviously just looks like Lon Chaney, but like with werewolf makeup on. Yeah. You know what I mean? And it's like they had these like you said, he was walking around on tippy toes. Yeah. Those were like boots, kind of.
They were cuts.
That cut like that, and then they were covered with yak hair. Okay. And I was watching a documentary with Rick Baker, who obviously is like a more like a modern, makeup artist who did American Werewolf in London and all that. And he said, yeah, mostly we still use yak hair, like for werewolf stuff and everything like that, because it's just like a really good, coarse hair to use. But, like I said, back then it was 1941. They were still using lap dissolves. So that was pretty much. And this one doesn't have like a super big like transformation scene. The first time he wolfs out, they just show his legs pretty much, like his feet, like turning, like growing more hair and stuff. And then like the last transformation is just after he gets beat to death by his own dad. I can't get past that. He gets beat to death by his own dad. And then, because his dad was kind of like ambivalent. He didn't really believe, like he kind of thought that his son was losing his mind, because he's like, dude, I'm, turning into a werewolf. And he's like, no, you're not. You're just, you just got mental problems or whatever. So I think that he didn't believe it, but maybe deep down he kind of did believe it. So then when he saw it, like after he killed him, and then like the gypsy lady comes and like says the spell or whatever, and he turns back into a person, like that's kind of a trance, but they just kind of like show his face and it's like dissolves, like him looking like more and more human. And then his dad is just like, shit, you know what I mean? The thing about it, like I said, they made 4 sequels to this. But weirdly, unlike most of the other Universal monsters, the other Wolfman movies, the sequels weren't just focused on Wolfman. Like, all the sequels were, like, kind of Monster Mash type stuff. Like, the next one was, like, Frankenstein, had, like, Frankenstein in it, like, Frankenstein meets the Wolfman or whatever it was. You know, and then, like, the other ones, like I said, had fucking Frankenstein and Dracula and shit like that in there. So it's like he didn't really have... You know, they didn't do Son of Wolfman. They didn't do anything like that like they did with some of the other monsters. They basically just did... You know, Wolfman standalone, and then they just did, like, Monster Mash type stuff that had the Wolfman in it. But Lon Chaney was in all of them. But because he got killed at the first one, they always had to, like, come up with, like, creative fucking ideas to, like, bring him back, you know what I mean? But I think after a few movies, though, they're just like, fuck it, he's just coming back to life, we're not explaining it. So, I mean, people talk about movies nowadays, at least if you're making a sequel, they at least try to make it internally consistent. I think back then they didn't really care. They were just kind of like, well, yeah, but he died in the last one. They're like, we don't give a shit. We don't have to explain. He's just alive again. Just deal with it. You know what I mean? They didn't fucking explain it or nothing like that. But, I forgot too that this one has the whole aspect of the pentagram being the symbol of werewolfery, which...
Yeah, and it's not a real pentagram that they show either.
No,
it's just a star.
Yeah, you know what's weird is that... Well, I saw another movie like that, too, where they said, oh, it's a pentagram. I'm like, not really. That's not what a pentagram looks like. That's just like a star like that. It's not a pentagram. But yeah, so they had that, and, like, when he got bit by the werewolf, like, it healed up. The bite healed, like, overnight, and then all that was left was, like, this little kind of thing that looked like a quote-unquote pentagram that really just looked like a star. And also, there was another aspect where... the werewolf would look at a person's hand, and if there was a pentagram in the palm of their hand, that was going to be the next victim. So, like, at the beginning, when Bela Lugosi, who was, you know, the fortune teller, and he looks at Jenny's palm, and he sees the pentagram there, so he flips out, because he's like, oh, shit, she's, like, the next victim, and I'm going to kill her. And so he's like, go away, get out of here. But she doesn't go fast enough, I guess. Sebastian said, what about the Spanish Dracula? We actually did...
already did it.
Yeah, we talked about the Spanish Dracula.
It's better than the American.
I like it a little bit better. Other than Bela Lugosi, who is, like, fucking classic.
Yeah.
But I actually kind of like the Spanish Dracula a little bit better.
And the Spanish the Spanish actor that played the Spanish version of Dracula, I liked him too.
Yeah.
I liked him too.
He had his own, spin
take
on it. Yeah.
Kind of more like Max Schreck. Like a mixture of Max Schreck and Bela. But Bela nails the character. He played that on fucking, you know, in I don't think it was Broadway, but he did it in plays for fucking a long time. And Bela kind of fucking made a lot of the Dracula and vampire tropes that people think of when they think of a vampire. Just because of his style. But the Spanish Dracula, the way it was shot and everything, and how they made use of the special effects and how they made use of the sets was superior.
It was a lot more interesting. The shot compositions were a lot more interesting.
Yeah.
A lot less static.
More about Dracula's brides.
Yeah.
A little scene was shown about that.
It was longer. There was like more in there.
There's a little more detail, a little bit more vampire lore in it. But the Spanish guy who plays Dracula, he's good, man. I like him. It's not Bela's take on it. It's just somebody else's take. I think it's good.
Yeah.
The only scene that kind of let me down is the scene where Spanish Dracula smacks the fucking mirror out of the guy's hand.
Oh, yeah.
The cane. It wasn't quite as cool as fucking Dracula's, or as Bela's version of it.
Yeah.
But other than that, no, it's good. It's a better movie.
Yeah, we did. We had like a long discussion about that because I think we might have done them like on successive days or successive weeks. We did the Bela Lugosi Dracula and then we did the Spanish Dracula like in close succession because we were doing all the Universal monster movies. But like I said, we hadn't done this one, and so I was like glad that it came up on Amazon Prime because I was like, oh yeah, I've been wanting to do this one because we kind of forgot about it, and I don't think I've ever seen any of the sequels. Like I said, I've seen this one when I was a kid, but I don't remember. I might have seen Frankenstein Meets the Wolfman, but I don't remember that much about it. Like, I remember Boris Karloff was in either the next one or the one after that, like, playing Dr. Frankenstein. He wasn't playing the monster. I kind of feel like... Who played the monster? Did Bela Lugosi play the monster in one of those?
I don't know.
I kind of feel like he might have. But, yeah, so they kind of did a whole thing where, you know, he gets brought back to life, and then him and Frankenstein's monster, like, have a big, like, wrestling match at the end, which is actually kind of epic. Like, I saw, like, I saw a clip of it. But, yeah, like I said, this isn't my favorite of the Universal monster movies, but it's still, like, a really good one. I mean, there's a reason why all of these are classics. But you have to kind of approach it as it's not... Like I said, it's not as dark. It's almost more... It's really more of a psychological horror movie. Because that's what he intended it to be. That's what the writer intended it to be. Like, it wasn't going to be like a monster movie. But... You know, of course the studio was like, no, we have to have him turn into a werewolf, you know what I mean? They knew their audience, I guess. So they do. But there's not a lot of screen time devoted to him being the Wolfman. It's mostly him. So like I said, there's a lot of exposition, and there's like a lot of that kind of stuff more than like monster fisticuffs or whatever. But I kind of feel like maybe the sequels went more in like a Monster Mash type direction, probably why. Although this did well enough to have 4 fucking sequels to it in the 1940s, which I feel like by the time the 1940s came around, a lot of the Universal monsters, it was going more in a comedic direction.
Yeah, I was gonna say Abbott and Costello.
Yeah, like Abbott and Costello got involved. You know what I mean? So people started like thinking of them as less scary and more, well, because World War II happened and people saw this horror in real life.
They're looking at this
and so they're seeing that's like, that's not scary. Like, I've seen really scary shit. You know what I mean? So it's just kind of like, so then it just became funny. But I feel like then it kind of went downward, and then like 50s came along, and then it was kind of all like sci-fi, like big bug movies and radiation and all that.
John Carpenter came and showed him some real horror with The Thing, his version of The Thing, and then
they
rejected
it. But that took a while.
They rejected it, which bummed him out, man. I think that mentally fucked him up and fucked up his career. But it came out the same time E.T. came out, and E.T. kicked its ass, and it got bad reviews pretty much because it was just too gross. Oh, it's just too much. Man, the fucking thing is a masterpiece.
It is absolutely not too much.
Yeah.
It was just the perfect amount.
Hard to top that, even
just
today.
Just the perfect amount.
Even today, just the tone and just the idea,
I mean, easily one of my favorite horror movies of all time, not just of the 80s.
Carpenter takes him just from a fucking very simple vegetable Frankenstein alien, takes it from that to it went fucking Lovecraftian, and he made him a Shaggoth. Basically is what that is.
Essentially, yeah. Pretty much. But yeah, so do we have anything else we would like to add?
No.
About the Wolfman? Anything else you would like to talk about?
Nothing. I sent the link to our thing there. He asked for it.
Yeah, on many vids it's, I think it's 13K.
13K got spelled out, 13.
And like I said, on Streammate, it's Gen Tom Cam.
Yeah. That's what I thought.
We have some videos on there, but they're just me because he's not. But we do stream on there. Yeah, but we do stream on there.
Yeah.
But we didn't go on there today because we had other things.
We're setting up we have a Twitter set up, but we're gonna put a link tree on it, and we're gonna start promoting things kind of sideways, and promote some of the other material that we do.
But yeah, we have been doing things behind.
Yeah, we've been too busy to do shit lately. You guys will find more about it later.
Yeah, are we gonna say about that on?
No, not yet.
Friday.
We'll talk about it later. Yeah.
Like Friday.
Maybe Friday, yeah.
Or Wednesday.
Or then we make a video about it.
Oh, do you want to do that?
We could do that. If you want to.
Maybe we should do that.
We'll just make a
now
stream
everybody's like mystified.
Yeah, we'll make a stream about it.
Well, do you want to do it after this one? You just like turn it off and start another one.
I don't know. No.
No, you don't want to do that?
No, too early.
All right. Yeah, Joseph says, after Universal made monster movies funny, Hammer Studios made monster movies scary again. I know, right? And God bless them.
They also made them sexy.
That too.
Hammer put boobs in the movie and ass.
And you know how much Tom loves that.
Damn. And it's fucking hot British girls, man, with the occasional fucking hot German chick. Yeah.
There was all the hot European
lesbian vampires with Carmilla, and just They had fucking twins with titties.
Twins of Evil, yeah.
Yeah. Who ended up in Playboy later.
Copious down blouse.
Yeah, they're just and those girls weren't just built; they could act. They were good.
I really like Twins of Evil. Good. We reviewed that a long time ago, and I think I joked on there. I said this should be called Down Blouse the movie.
Down Blouse the movie. You wish you were here.
But it's a good movie in its own right. You know what I mean? Everybody likes hot twins. Come on, how can you not love that?
The British understood the power of titties. Fucking big time.
I feel like they're a very titty-centric culture. They like boobs.
I agree.
And Tom can... Yeah,
I agree.
Tom loves boobs.
Yeah, I love them. I like booty, too. I like big booty.
You like pretty much everything.
Yeah, and everything's got to have its own style.
Yeah, he just likes whatever.
Yeah, as long as the expression is correct.
Yeah.
Different body styles.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, he just likes it all.
I like it all, but I have tendencies.
Well, yeah. Joseph also said, thanks for your review of The Void. You're welcome. I watched it last night. It was very good. Yeah, if you haven't seen... I put it up a day or two ago. And this was actually my second watch of it. And if you haven't seen... If you're into, like, Lovecraftian type of stuff, and if you like 80s horror, like, you know, John Carpenter or anything like that... and if you haven't seen The Void from 2016, you should definitely check that out because it's very much like a John Carpenter movie, and it has also has Lovecraft and all the practical effects in it are really, really good. It's like super, super gory.
Yeah, Sebastian, we did Bone Tomahawk. Excellent flick.
Yeah, we did.
You did that.
Oh my god, I love Bone Tomahawk. Yeah, it's like most of the movies. I don't know. Every now and then y'all recommend the one that we haven't done, but we've done so many, it's just like, it's hard to remember.
If you want to see a newer movie that'll remind you of John Carpenter when he was at his fucking best, go see VFW. Great fucking movie.
Yeah, we reviewed that one too.
We reviewed that one, yeah.
I feel like there's kind of there's been a lot of filmmakers that are coming out now that were really inspired by, even if they weren't born then, that were really inspired by John Carpenter and like 80s movies in particular. So there's a lot of really good throwback type of movies. Like I've seen a ton of them that were really good like that you could tell were homage or were set in the 80s or were homaging the 80s. Like I'm trying to think of like some good. There was a good one called Beyond the Gates. I don't think you saw it, but I saw it. That was really good, and it had Barbara Crampton in it too.
Yeah, she's still cute.
Yeah, she's hot as shit still.
Held together, yeah.
She looks. Yeah, I'm on her Instagram.
Yeah, she's still cute.
And
she's what, 60 something?
She's got to be.
Yeah,
I would think.
Well, look at Cassandra Peterson. She's 70, I think 70-something. 73. Yeah. She's still fucking real good looking. Kept up with herself.
Yeah. Joseph said, I looked up The Void on IMDb. They recommended a movie called The Endless. That one is also great. I don't think I've reviewed that one, but I've seen it. That is also very Lovecraftian. It has like a Lovecraftian thing, but it's also like has a cult, like a scary cult kind of thing going on with it too, which I guess The Void does as well. But yeah, that one is also great, so I'd also recommend that one. I just haven't reviewed that one yet, but I have seen it. Let me see. Yeah, Sebastian said it was a good review. Thank you very much.
What was a good review? This one?
The one that I did. That I put up the other day. The next one I should do. I have to do a book review. I haven't finished the book I'm reading yet, but somebody did send me an ARC of like a novella, so I might do that one first. We'll see. Yeah, Joseph said The Endless is on Tubi. Yeah, I really like that movie. So, I mean, if you haven't seen it, like, watch it and tell me what you thought of it, because I really like it. I kind of want to rewatch it, actually. I had a good time rewatching The Void, because I hadn't seen it for a few years. But, yeah. All right, so are we ready to wrap it up? Okay, so come back on Wednesday night for our main show. And this was a recommendation by one of y'all, and I put it in the poll, and it won quite handily. So we're going to be talking about Princess Diana's death, conspiracy theories.
Okay, yeah.
That's what we're going to be talking about on Wednesday night show. So that should be, Princess Di. So I've been watching documentaries about that like earlier today. So that's what we're going to do on Wednesday. So hopefully you guys can join us for that. And thank you for coming and hanging out with us this Monday evening. We will see you guys again on Wednesday.